Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are starting a new Path 2 series. This time we are doing the Path to the Cleveland. That's right, the American Light Cruiser line. Let's get into it. First off, we get the Tier 5 Dallas. So let's take a look at it. First of all, we're using Norman Scott as our commander. We have Isoroku Yamamoto and Philip Vian as our two inspirations. We are running Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, Fixated, and EOP, Equilibrium of Power. This is a perk that a lot of people argue with me as far as its effectiveness, but personally, I don't like the fire chances in the game. I think that every time I try to get fires, I never get them. So Equilibrium of Power is my way of getting extra penetration on my HE shells for the light cruisers and allowing me to do more damage per salvo, even though it cuts your fire chance in half. So it's just my personal preference. Whether or not you guys want to do something similar is up to you. Now, I'll be real honest. I don't actually run any other builds. I know that you still have the... oh god, what's his name? Einstein. A lot of people talk about Einstein build. He gets the traverse speed of the cruiser's guns, which you don't need on the American Light Cruisers. But other than that, he has the same perks as you would get on Norman Scott, except he does not get Equilibrium of Power, which means you end up running Refill Station. So that's up to you. And then the other one I know a lot of people have been talking about is Shelly Beepley, which is the one I forgot about in the Balti playthrough. But as you can see, there's nothing that unusual here. She is just a replacement for the tank build cruiser. She has all the same perks. She's got to burn it down. She's got full speed or before it's too late. She's got Sponge, Velocious, and Armed and Ready. She gets extra sonar charges, steering gears, or private zone. So again, it's a matter of opinion whether you go for it or not. But personally, not that big of a fan. Norman Scott builds plenty for me. All right. So with that being said, let's look at our equipment. We are running Aiming Systems Mod 1 and Steering Gears Mod 2. Steering gears actually could be swapped out for propulsion mod. It just depends on what your style of avoiding shells is. If you like to turn and avoid them, or if you like to slow down and speed up to avoid shells, it's up to you. Either way, they both revolve around the same thing, and that is avoiding trouble. I went with steering gears because the American Light Cruisers tend to be a little on the sluggish side when it comes to the steering. That's just, something I noticed. We are running the sonar consumable and 4 planes. We have the Stars and Stripes permanent camo that comes through the Bureau, and we are running community contributor flag. Stats: 28,300 hit points with a 4% torp reduction. Artillery, you get 2 times 2, so 4 152mm Mark 16 twin turrets, and then you have 2 by 3, so 6 152mm Mark 16s. Okay, so for the total, you have 4 and 6. You get a 10-gun broadside at Tier 5 in the American Light Cruisers, which doesn't sound that impressive because the Pensacola also gets a 10-gun broadside, and it is 203mm guns. So where does this get better? Well, it's got 16-kilometer range, which isn't that great. The reload is 7.5 seconds, which is phenomenal. 180-degree turn time, 20 seconds. Not the fastest, but not terrible. HE shell maximum damage is 1,827 with a 7.5% chance of setting fires. Remember, it's 7.5% because we take EOP. If we don't take EOP, that's 15%. Okay, AP shell maximum damage is 3,300. Secondaries, you have 127mm Mark 24s. You get 2 of those. And they reach out 4.2 kilometers and reload in 6 seconds. They fire HE with a maximum damage of 1,800 and a 4% chance of setting fires. Then you have the 127mm 38s, which is the 5-inch 38 that everybody knows and loves in the American military. You've got all of those beautiful Atlanta guns. Well, you get 2 of those. Now, they're not main guns in this ship, they're just secondaries, which is a shame. You would think you would be able to fire the main guns, or fire these off as main guns as well, but it's not the way the game works, unfortunately. But they fire out to 4.2 kilometers. They reload in 6 seconds. The maximum HE shell damage is 1800 with a 4% chance to set fires. AA defense. It's going to be pretty solid for this entire line, let's be real. 20mm Ehrlichen Mark IVs, you've got 14 of those doing 50 damage per second, reaching out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 40mm Bofors Mark I, you've got 12 of those reaching out to 3.5 kilometers and doing 68 damage per second. Then you've got the 127mm Mark 24s, you got 2 of those reaching out to 5 kilometers, doing 16 damage per second. And then you have the 127mm Mark 38s, well, Mark 29, 38 caliber 5-inch gun. You got 4 of those that do 30 damage per second and reach out to 5 kilometers. Alright, maximum speed 32.5 knots with a 650 meter turning circle, and that's what I was talking about. And it's got a pretty slow rudder shift at 6.4 seconds after we added the steering gear. So this is one of those things that you probably ought to think about doing some extra things. Personally, my play style is a little different from most people's. I tend to be a little more aggressive. I tend to be up close and personal. So turning builds, going like full on like open water turning kiting mode is not what I go for. I tend to go for the DPM, the extra damage, the better penetration, all of the things. Maneuverability, though, not particularly good on this ship, which gets it into a lot of trouble. Concealment. Detectability is 11.1 kilometers, not bad, with a, that's by sea. By air, it's 6.9 kilometers. Guaranteed is always 2, and then the detectability while firing in smoke is just 5.4 kilometers, which is pretty freaking good. Alright, armor. It doesn't have any. Not really. Don't count on having any armor. Alright, you got a 16mm bow. Alright, like I said, the 16 millimeters can be overmatched by, I think it's 230, it's 227 or something like that, is the gun caliber it takes to overmatch. So, if anything with bigger guns than that, aka Cheshire and above, gets in front of you, it goes right through your bow and you have a bad time. So, let's strip all of that away and look at the Citadel on this bad boy. Well, first of all, we've got 16 millimeters of side plating too, by the way, just in case you didn't know. Let's look at the Citadel. It's got a raised Citadel, which is something that we all know and love is a ridiculously bad thing. The good news is it's 89 millimeters on the belt, so you can ricochet shells off of it at steep angles. If you're playing around, you can actually ricochet some shells. Just don't count on it being ricochets, because remember, 16 millimeters everywhere else. Doesn't matter. Most shells are going to be able to pin that, and then it's a raised Citadel, so it's very easy to get Citadeled. Alright? Now, overview. Surgical shells. Short shell fuse time results in lower chance of overpenetrations. Yeah, if you go broadside in this in a cruiser, like if you go broadside in front of this thing firing AP at you, you're going to have a bad time, because it's not going to overpin, it's going to absolutely shred you with Citadels. Reloader, above average main battery reload speed. Sluggish shot. Now these are going to be harder to aim. I know it says the same thing for the American heavy cruisers, but seriously, the light cruisers, anything outside of like 13 kilometers becomes almost impossible to hit. And I'm not joking when I say that. Like, it's freaking ridiculously... It takes so long for these shells. These shells go up, they kiss the moon on the way by, and then they drop down from space to hit their target. So it takes a long time to do that, is what I'm saying. Dallas, a design version of a small light cruiser development which preceded the creation of the Helena-class cruisers. She had features characteristic of most subsequent ships of this type in the U.S. Navy: moderate speed, the absence of torpedoes, and the availability of dual-purpose guns complementing the 152mm main batteries. So she was designed in 1934, she was never built. Let's take a look at it. It's not a bad-looking design. It's a bit long, and you can see that anytime you're in a match, and you see what's up against you. You can see those 5-inch 38s right there, just beyond the second turret and just before the third turret, right next to the superstructures on both ends of the ship. That's the 5-inch 38. It's the same secondary that you get on the Iowa, same secondaries that you get on or same main guns that you get on the Atlanta. Like, they're very, very nasty little guns, and they were used all over the American Navy. The 5-inch 38 is world-renowned in its capability as not just a main gun or a secondary gun, but also as anti-aircraft as well. So, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we are in the Dallas, and we spawned on the northern, it'd be west side, I guess, the northwest side of the map. Now, Trap is a weird map, and it really does mean what it is saying it is. Like, Trap is a trap. You gotta win the outsides on this map. The middle cap, if you can get the middle cap, especially early, that's amazing. But later in the game, the middle cap becomes an intense fighting ground, right? Now, the American light cruisers are a little bit different than the American heavy cruisers. If you've played the heavy cruisers and you're just now starting the light cruisers, the biggest thing you're going to notice is a lack of damage. Okay? Now, there's a couple reasons for this. First of all, you got smaller guns, right? But you got faster fire rate. Now, we run EOP rather than running without EOP because I like my HE to still do damage, and it still sets plenty of fires. May not set as many fires as somebody not running EOP, but overall it still does fires, and on top of that, it still hits pretty good with the HE. I mean, when you're getting 3,000 or 4,000 damage salvos of HE, you don't really care if it's setting fires. And that does happen. Maybe not all the time, but it does happen. The main thing you want the EOP for is for penetrating the armor of battleships, which is something you can't do without EOP. You will shatter almost every round, so keep that in mind. EOP increases the penetration of your high explosive, which allows you to penetrate that armor and therefore do damage and set fires, which is why EOP on light cruisers is such a huge deal. But we're going to push off to the right side. We're going to, like I said, we got to try to win the outside edges. Now, this match is not going to play out to my advantage at any point. It's going to be one of those matches where you just got to make do with what the enemy gives you. Like, take what the enemy gives you and do your best as a cruiser, as a decent speed, agile cruiser, moving around the map to put yourself in position to help your team win the match. That is what the light cruiser is for. Getting rid of destroyers is always a bonus, but the main thing with light cruisers is you have to put yourself in position to do the best you can to win the game for your team. Light cruisers are exceptional at getting rid of enemy, finishing everything off. So you will get more Krakens in light cruisers than anything in the game. Just period. I don't care. Destroyers, battleships, doesn't matter. Light cruisers are where it's at if you want Krakens. Guaranteed. You got a fast fire rate. You can easily finish off most opponents. Few salvos can take a couple thousand off of somebody really quickly and finish them off. And then the Americans, as we actually get caught by armor piercing from the Königsberg, which caught me off guard, not gonna lie, which is not a bad play by the Königsberg. This is actually a great play by him, but I wasn't expecting it, and I'm gonna lose a chunk of my health because of it. But we also have his broadside, and our armor piercing has better penetration angles because American, and so he's given way too much side up. It's just a matter of time before he dies. As you can see, we're not necessarily getting citadels, but we are chunking him, and he's not long for this world. And with the rate of fire that you're capable of getting out of this thing, and eventually the Helena, which you guys will see next, is ridiculous. You will absolutely murder people with these, and we finish them off getting our first blood. Now, we have two battleships out there, right? I look at them, we got the Peter, and we've got the Ishmael. Neither of these ships are ideal to shoot at with this ship, okay? They have very thick armor everywhere, so even with EOP, you're going to shatter a lot of shells trying to hurt them. And because we have the reduced fire chance, we don't set them on fire as often as we'd like. Now, Destroyer here dumps torpedoes towards the Peter Veliki, which is great. I don't know if he's going to hit any, but he at least is trying. My goal here was to capture this base and get the fuck out. Now, we are obviously spotted by somebody from the mid. They captured the mid circle early, which is great for them and hard for us to counter. because the longer this match plays out, as you can see, the east side of the map has been, well, the northeast side of the map has been completely and utterly destroyed. They are now on my side. All those people ran away. Subra comes out, shows himself, completely screws the pooch here. You cannot make these kinds of mistakes in a destroyer. You know what I am. I've been spotted for a while. You've seen it. And you put yourself in a position where I can spot you, which is never going to end in your favor. And down goes their only destroyer, which is huge. We still have our destroyer. They don't. This is a huge deal. Now, I'm not saying that our destroyer is doing anything useful. I don't know if he actually landed any torpedoes or anything like that. And he's not doing anything useful in terms of capturing bases or anything. But, as you can see, I put myself in a beeline straight for the center cap. Now, I'm shooting at the enemy battleships initially. You can see we are getting some penetration, so we're going to keep going on the Ishmael's deck. We are getting some penetrations, not getting any fires yet. But as long as we're not shattering all of our shells, we're actually doing damage. And you can see another 1,600 damage. That's why I say the EOP is so freaking useful for light cruisers. Everybody that says otherwise and relies on fires for their damage, I understand, but at the same time, from my experience, I still get just about as many fires as I do without EOP when I'm running EOP. Sure, it says it cuts it in half, but you don't really notice. I mean, you're still going to get, 7 or 8 fires a game instead of the 14 or 15 fires, but again, you're not going to notice that big of a gap. What you will notice is how many times you hit people for 1,500 to 3,000 damage with HE and you set a fire. That's what makes the Conqueror so nasty. That's what makes the Nelson so nasty. Now here we get detected, which is not good at all. We got Arizona looking at us. We've got Ishmael looking at us. Peter Veliki back there looking at us. We do not want to be in a position where they can shoot us. Now, I'm trying to capture this base, but because we're spotted, we're in trouble. Because everybody's going to be able to hit us. That was the enemy Dallas lobbing the island on us. You can see these shells coming in from outer space, man. This is what makes these cruisers so nasty, is they can lob the most ridiculous islands. Battleships trying to hide from them. If they're at any sort of range, these shells will be coming in from literally orbit. Now, I'm denying them cap points at the moment. I'm requesting support. My entire team is at A. Half of them are completely out of play, and the other half are kind of coming back towards me. I can't stay here forever. You can see Iron Duke is pushing up. He's actually got another cruiser, which I believe is an Italian cruiser, right behind him. That's right there in front of him that he's going to be able to... no, it's Emile Breton. Are going to be able to spot us and then put us in a bad way. We do not want to be here right now with an Iron Duke coming around the corner. This Iron Duke has HE loaded, he's going to smash us. If he has AP loaded, we're dead. Doesn't matter. Like, whatever this man does is going to hurt. And, yeah, right there. Double fire immediately took half our health that we had left. And that was HE. So we've got to get out of here. We cannot continue to stay in this cap. Luckily for me, 2 battleships are moving in. And that's going to allow me, as we take a armor-piercing salvo at the Trento, to disengage and go and do what these things do really well. Which isn't necessarily contend for the cap in the middle of the map where everybody's surrounding you and has a beautiful chance to remove you. It's getting in one-on-one duels with cruisers and absolutely wrecking their life because American armor-piercing. And then on top of that, getting into a kiting position where you can open water gunboat against everything. Now here, that shot right there for the Emile actually terrified me. Because I was at a pretty vulnerable angle. If he aimed that well, I was going to be hurt. But luckily for me, he either shot too low and most of the rounds hit the water or whatever. But notice he's bow tanking me. I'm going to be using HE. EOP HE versus cruisers is nasty. You can see the kind of damage I'm getting. Now luckily we also, because we're a cruiser, have a fast reloading damage con. You can see the amount of firepower heading our direction as the Emile Breton gets touched by one of our battleships, thankfully. And that's going to allow us to help take him out. Königsberg helps finish him off. Königsberg is actually putting himself in a pretty good position here. He's behind an island, but he is helping to shoot these guys. Now, the Trento is pushing up on us. The Iron Duke is pushing up on us. Iron Duke, I'm not too afraid of at these sorts of ranges. We can dodge most of his shells pretty easily, as you can see. Squeezing in between the raindrops, making sure that we're not getting punched. Now, obviously, with the island here, I have to turn out, which takes my attention off of him for a split second, but it's a battleship. We know he's got a longer reload. We don't really have to worry about looking away for a second after he had just shot at us. Now, here we avoid the Königsberg and squeeze to the inside. We're also going to be trying to squeeze back, and you can see he actually shot at the Königsberg there, which is perfect. And we're going to swing around to the outside of the cap here, or outside of this island. Initially, I was planning on staying here to help burn this Iron Duke down, but I think the Iron Duke is about to get punched right in the mouth. I don't remember who does it. One of our battleships in the middle, as we get a fire on him, is about to smash that Iron Duke. Now, obviously, Arizona's pushing around. These are all the things you have to think of when you're in a light cruiser. You have to be aware of where everybody is on the map and who has shots on you. Because if for 1 second you do not notice, you can be going back to port in a real hurry. So you've got to pay attention and make sure that when you're in these sorts of cruisers, that you know who's shooting at you and where they are and what angles they have, and, you know, keeping people at a distance is going to be in your favor. And then a lot of people tell you to go flat broadside to take enemy battleship rounds, and up close and personal, that's actually a pretty good strategy. But at any sort of intermediate range, it's probably going to result in your immediate removal from the match. You need to avoid battleship rounds at all costs. The Königsberg actually gets the torpedo perfect attack on the freaking Iron Duke, finishing him off, which is huge. And now we've got this Trento, who now feels some type of way. We've got 2 caps. We've got the advantage. We've got everything working in our favor currently. We don't need to do anything crazy. The Trento's giving us a pretty good angle. We're going to go with that AP for a little bit. You can see it does take a little while for these shells to get there. We lose our Königsberg, which is going to give the enemy a little bit more points. And you can see with the battleship shooting at the Trento and me shooting HE at the Trento fires armor piercing at me and catches me off guard here. And we get pretty fortunate he doesn't citadel it. And so we're going to turn out, again, getting in that kiting position, making sure that when we need to dodge, we can. And here you can see we turn out, knowing he fires his guns at us, we avoid all of the shells. It is that simple. It may not be the most fun playstyle, but I'll tell you what, when you get into a light cruiser and you know that you're low health, at any moment you're a dead man if somebody lands a good hit, and you have to work your butt off to try to avoid as many rounds as possible, like, it can be quite fun just trying to avoid all of the shells coming your way. But you can see, because of my trying to avoid his shells, because he just happens to be firing at the same time that I am, or right before I do, I have to let him fire and dodge his rounds and then break contact, let him look somewhere else, and he's out of our range at the moment. And now, 3,000 hit points, I start making my turn back in towards the mid, because if you notice, the enemy battleships are heading towards the B cap. And our battleship that's currently in B cap only has very little health. Okay, so keep that in mind. We saw him for a split second. He had basically no hit points, and he's going up against 2 battleships and a cruiser very soon. Trento goes down, thankfully, and that leaves this... We still have a 200-point lead, 280-point lead, actually. As we lose our Oklahoma, that narrows that gap down to just under 200-point lead. And so we have a commanding lead. This is one of those moments where you have to recognize that you do not have to do anything crazy to win this match. You have the win. All you have to do is defend the cap. They cannot beat you at this point, because if they get in a cap and you defend the cap by resetting them, all they're doing is denying you extra points, and you already have a 200-point lead. They're not getting any extra points for it, and so therefore their 1 cap is tied with your 1 cap, and the points cancel out. You maintain your 200-point lead. However, Ishmael is very low. That's a huge point swing if he dies. So you see me telling him to get back, just disappear. I don't want you firing your guns. I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to stay away. I will try to get shots on these guys once I get to the island cover. You notice I'm moving to an island, right? I'm not planning on getting into an open water gun battle with these guys. I want to use the island. I want to be able to shoot at them and not be shot back. Now, I shoot here at Dallas because the other two guys that could spot me are too far away. They're outside my gun range. So I'm going to shoot at the Dallas here, try to get a couple shots on them. First shot wasn't a very good one. The second one I do believe hits him. But now we've got to be careful. Ishmael's about in range. We fire the guns right as we go behind the island. You can see we do not get detected, and we're going to be able to sit here and farm damage for the next 35 seconds. Now, the Dallas in the center cap, I wasn't able to actually reset him. He disappears, or he's not disappeared, but he's behind the island. We are going to try to get a shot over the island on him using the auto aim. Can't see his ship, so all we can do is take an educated guess, right? Use the auto aim, maybe you get lucky. Get the reset on the Dallas just like we did, so there's some extra XP for us. And then we just sit here and shoot a few shots at the Arizona and the Ishmael that's not going to hit most likely because there's only 5 seconds left and we win the match. But these are all things that you need to pay attention to in a light cruiser, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a good one to start the series of showing the advantage and the disadvantage and where you need to engage, disengage in light cruisers to keep yourself alive and be helpful for the team. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.